All right, today we're going to unpack just 5 verses from the book of Isaiah. We're in chapter 14, verses 24 through 28. And these aren't just any verses. They lay out this incredibly specific prophecy about a global superpower and a shocking military defeat, all detailed decades before it ever happened. So let's get right into it. Okay, let's jump right in with the prophecy itself, starting with verse 24. And you got to notice how this thing starts. It doesn't begin with a suggestion or a possibility, it begins with a sworn oath. Surely as I have thought, so shall it come to pass. I mean, the language here is just absolute. This is designed to frame everything that follows not as a maybe, but as an unchangeable, unshakable decree. So, with that foundation of absolute certainty laid down, the prophecy cuts right to the chase. It tells you exactly who its target is and precisely what's going to happen. Yeah, we're not talking about some vague, far-off trouble here. This is a direct promise of judgment against the superpower of that era. In verse 25, well, this is really the heart of the matter. The judgment is so specific. First, you've got the target, the Assyrian. And second, the location is super specific. In my land and upon my mountains. We're talking right there in Judah. This wasn't prophesied to happen in some distant land. This superpower was going to be shattered on the home turf of the very people they were threatening. Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. In verse 26, the whole scope just expands. It links this very local action, breaking Assyria's army in Judah, to a global purpose, one purposed upon the whole earth. So why is that connection so important? Well, theologically, what it does is frame this one battle not as just some isolated incident, but as a public demonstration of a much larger plan. It's a statement about sovereignty over all nations, not just one. And then you get to verse 27, and it's like we've come full circle, powerfully echoing that opening oath from verse 24. It basically bookends the whole prophecy by asking these two massive rhetorical questions. Who shall disannul it, and who shall turn it back? The implied answer, of course, is nobody. It just hammers home this idea of an absolutely unstoppable divine will at work. Okay, so after laying out this incredible 4-verse prophecy, the text drops this really crucial piece of context on us in verse 28. Think of it like a historical timestamp. It tells us exactly when this all went down. In the year that King Ahaz died was this burden. This pins the entire declaration to a specific, verifiable moment in history. So let's talk about that word from verse 28, burden. It's a really key term here. In this context, burden isn't just something heavy you carry. No, it's a heavy prophecy. It's a weighty, serious, divine warning being issued against a nation, and in this case, as we've seen, that nation is the mighty Assyrian Empire. Okay, so this timeline is absolutely key to understanding what's going on. King Ahaz dies somewhere between 727 and 725 BC. That's when this prophecy is given. But look at the date of fulfillment, 701 BC. So you've got a gap of more than 20 years. I mean, talk about setting a dramatic stage for what's about to happen. A prophecy is just words until it's fulfilled. So after all that, the what, the where, the why, with that 2-decade gap hanging in the air, the big question is, did it actually happen? Let's take a look at the historical record. Well, fast forward to the year 701 BC, and everything comes to a head. The Assyrian army, this seemingly invincible force, is right at the gates of Jerusalem. But then, the invasion fails. And not just fails, it fails catastrophically. The account in 2 Kings says the army was completely decimated overnight. The survivors just fled back to their capital, Nineveh. And you know what? History shows that the Assyrian Empire never again posed a direct threat to Judah. And this is where the sheer scale of the defeat really hits you. The text gives this just staggering number, 185,000. 185,000 Assyrian soldiers gone in a single night. The army that was the terror of the known world was broken, just like the prophecy said it would be, in my land upon my mountains. And that brings us all the way back to that powerful closing question of the prophecy. You see, for the writer, the incredible defeat of the Assyrian army wasn't just a military upset or some lucky break. It was the living, breathing answer to that very question. It was meant to be a historical demonstration of a purpose that could not be stopped, leaving us to think about what it really means when an ancient text lays out a plan so absolute that it just looks you in the eye and asks, who shall turn it back?